of concern and response to your support requests. And more importantly, do you even know how many subscribers you have? Well, if that's you, keep watching, because I'm Eileen Smith, and in this video, I'm going to talk you off the ledge and tell you what you need to do next. Stay right there, because that's what's coming up today. Oh my goodness, my friends, my fellow podcasters. I am not here today to create any type of fear or convince anyone that they need to stop podcasting. In fact, just the opposite. I want you to continue podcasting. I want to see you thrive. And I also want to see you take control of your RSS feed, your podcast, the lifeblood of your podcast depends on your RSS feed. Now, many of you know that. Now, your heart and soul of your podcast are you and your content and your audience. And I want you to have a direct connection to that audience. I also have been getting a lot of questions. I've been getting messages. I've seen these questions and these frustrations being shared over on some of the Facebook groups. And see, the problem is that a lot of times we rush without investigating, without doing research. And in some cases, that's fine, because a lot of times you hear about an easy way to start podcasting. Everybody wants to make podcasting easier, because you do need a level of technical expertise. And in that rush, you may not have considered all the options. Now, of course, if you follow me and if you've been watching my videos, I have been expressing this to you, that you can start off with a free podcast host. In fact, I did a whole project, and it's called Free Podcast Host. And in that project, I went through all of the very popular ways that you can start your podcast for free. But I also reminded you, and I'll say it again now, think of it as a stepping stone. Think of it as a practice platform. Think of it as a way to flush out ideas, maybe to find your next co-host. But don't put all your podcasting eggs in that free podcast host basket. I did that as a service to you, because I know that a lot of you are afraid of the tech. And I know a lot of people who started their podcast, and I'll just go ahead and get the elephant in the room out on the table now. They started podcasting with Anchor simply because it was easy. And I still think that people who are afraid of the tech, who have no idea what they want to do, and rather than not podcasting, not being sure what they want to focus on, not being sure of the topic, and rather than walking away from podcasting and saying, I don't know what I'm doing, so forget it, I'd rather that they go ahead, pick up their smartphones, and download the Anchor app, because it's available on Android and iOS, and you can get started for free. But keep in mind, like I said, it's a stepping stone to something greater. once you start to get the podcasting fever, and once you feel like you're on a roll and you know what you want to talk about, you have a structure now. You may have some intro music now. You may have your artwork that you want to use on your show, and you've also got like a little bit of segments worked out. Like you're going to do a little funny segment. You're going to do a segment where you talk about what you used to do when you were a kid or whatever. You start to develop structure. You start to develop your content. You start to build an audience. Then it's time to move on. Don't get frustrated. Don't say, oh my gosh, this podcasting stuff, I don't like it because I tried to reach out to the team and they wouldn't even answer me. I am seeing this a lot. And, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to bash anyone. There's a lot of people who do get help. But just so happens that I run into the folks that don't. And they have questions, and they're coming to myself. They're coming to other Facebook groups. They're coming to other podcasting gurus and asking questions because they can't get the response they need. And it's overwhelming. I get it. I don't know if some of the folks at Anchor, I don't know any of them personally. They're great people, I'm sure. But I'm not sure they knew how much of that apple they took a bite of, if they bit off more than they can chew, especially when it comes to support. And you got to remember, they're doing the podcasting space a big favor because they're offering it for free. So that's bringing a lot more podcasters into the space. And so we can't knock the way they conduct business. They are trying to innovate, and I've seen them do some really creative and innovative things. So, like I said, I'm not trying to say anything really bad about using Anchor. I'm not trying to scare anyone against using it. All I'm saying to you is that there's going to come a time. There's going to come a day when you're going to be ready to move on. Fair enough? We got all those disclaimers out of the way now. So now let's get into it. So before we do that, I just want to say hi to a couple of my friends who are over in the chat room. And let's see, I've got my friend, speaking of Anchor, and one of the top podcasters over there. Well, he's a top podcaster in my book, and that's Ant Capone. He's in the house. Hello, Ant Capone. And my dear friend, Andrew Hatchett, is in the house as well. So hang on one second, guys. I just want to get your comments up there so people can see that you're there. Yay, it's always good when you have friends that come by. And Ann Capone is saying you're right. And because I know that Ant has been a little frustrated with some of the things at Anchor, and he also knows that I told him a long time ago that eventually he's going to want to move on. Ant Capone is a great podcaster. He's great with building audience and all of that. And he may be at the stage where he's outgrown Anchor. So let's just talk a little bit more about this, because some folks may not know what I mean. All right. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a screen share this time. Guys, I want to show you, I have 2 podcasts over on Anchor. Don't worry. I know what I'm getting into, right? Okay, so what I want to share with you is my stats page. Now you have to log into the desktop in order to see this. So if you're on Anchor, just sign into your account on the desktop. Now, this particular account that I'm signed into here is the smaller account. In fact, I mentioned it a few minutes ago. It's called Free Podcast Host, right? And this show is not on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. In fact, it's not on any of the other podcast aggregators. It's only here on Anchor, this version of the show. Okay? And see how I just wanted to serve the community. I put this podcast out here so that people who wanted options for free podcast hosts would know them. And so, just so you'll see, scroll down to the bottom and you'll see here the only place where this podcast is being consumed is on Anchor. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Now, the reason I showed you this is because now I want to turn to my other podcast, which is actually, believe it or not, it's called The Anchor Show. Yeah, I did that. Once again, love to educate people about podcasting. Love to spread the word about the power of podcasting. So just hang on one second. I'm going to log into that account because I want you to see the difference in the statistics. And I'm taking you here, guys, because this is what you need to look for when you're looking at your stats. Okay, because this is going to be important when it's time to make that move. All right. So bear with me. There's a method to my madness here. All right. So here's the show, and I'm going to go into the dashboard. Somehow they kind of make it a little convoluted to get into your dashboard. I think I have to go to home. All right, to get to my dashboard. Now you're going to see a lot more statistics with this particular show, all right? And this one is being distributed by Anchor. And like I said, it's the Anchor Show where I talk about podcasting on Anchor. So I knew going in that this content belongs to Anchor, but it's really to help the people who are podcasting on Anchor so they know things about podcasting. I did several tutorials just talking about how to podcast, the importance of, like I said earlier, your RSS feed. Why is that important? I'll show you. It's coming up. All right, so here you see on this show, the lion's share of my listening is coming from other. Now, goodness knows, I've asked and have not gotten an answer from anybody. What other is, for those of you who are actually listening to this, in case I repurpose this, it says other 1,628. Now that's an other. Okay, Anchor 1,171, which is about 500 listens less on Anchor. Then iOS. Now this is the two important stats that I want you guys to think about if you're using Anchor to push your show out to Apple Podcasts. These two stats here, Anchor and iOS. Because what happens is when you move your podcast to another host. Let's talk about this now. Let me come back on full screen because this is important. And I kind of want to make sure that you guys, I got your attention. I feel like I do. When you are getting your show distributed to the Apple Podcasts, and you see, like you saw there on my stats, there was over 1,000 through Anchor. And there was only 128, I do believe, going out to iTunes. Now, when I say only, I have 90 some episodes. All right. So when you think about 90 episodes, if somebody on iTunes listened to each and every one, that may be 2 or 3 people. And it could even be myself for all I know. Because Anchor's stats don't compare. They do not compare to a stats that you're going to get from a paid and more sophisticated podcasting host such as your Libsyn, that's Libsyn, short for Liberated Syndication, the one you guys hear me talk about here on this YouTube channel all the time, and that I did a tutorial about last weekend, and that's Spreaker, also my favorite. Spreaker, you're going to get more sophisticated stats. You're not going to see an other with a huge number. And it's like, well, if it's not Anchor and it's not Apple Podcasts and it's not Google Play, what's other? Like, what could that be? Oh, maybe it's social media. Perhaps it is. But tell me, is it Twitter? Is it Facebook? Social media is a big place, right? So we need to know this information. So with these rudimentary stats, one thing you can pretty much say is that there's a small number of people that are actually using iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, to listen to the show. They're either other, and if other is social media, well, I'm the one who's getting it promoted on social media. Anchor's not helping me with that. Okay? So I can get any of my shows promoted on social media. And by that, I mean, if it's being shared on Twitter or on Facebook, I don't know. You have to make it up. When they give you a category of other, you don't know what you're dealing with. And that's why I said at the beginning of this video is that you don't even know how many subscribers you have, because people who are in the Anchor app listening, they don't even have to be your follower to listen. They could be someone who was searching for a topic. They're in the Anchor app. It's a listen. It's not a subscriber. The beauty of podcasting is in that RSS feed and in gaining subscribers, people who every time you put out a new episode, that episode gets downloaded to their device, wherever they listen, whether it's on their phone, it could be on their desktop, but let's face it, most folks are listening on their phone, or perhaps they could be listening on that lady in the round tube that I have over there, on their Amazon Echo device, or Google Play, something like that, or the Google Home devices. Okay, so your goal is to get subscribers. Your goal is to get subscribers. People can listen. That doesn't make them a subscriber. Now, if you're only in the Anchor ecosystem, listeners are more important. I admit that. All right. But let's kind of focus. I'm going to bring it back. You've already decided that you're ready to move beyond the Anchor ecosystem. Doesn't even have to be that show you have over there. It's going to be a different show, maybe. Okay? But if it is that show, back to the RSS feed. What's important, and I'll give you an example. Lynette, the other day, just posted over in one of the Facebook groups, and actually did not get her permission, so I'm not going to say her last name. But I know, because I've seen this in other Facebook groups as well. When people want to leave Anchor, they go to the new host. In this case, it was Libsyn. And Libsyn says, yes, we can move you over, but you need to send an email to Anchor. And they have to put in what's called a redirect. I'm not going to get into the techie bits of that. But all that does is those people that have subscribed to your show via the RSS feed, not the people on Anchor, the people in all those other apps, Pocket Cast, and on Apple Podcasts and on Google Play, they have subscribed to your show, right? When you move your show over, they won't even know the difference. Because if Anchor does their job would be to put in something called a redirect to redirect those people over to your new feed at Libsyn or your new feed at Spreaker or Podbean. All right. I recommend Spreaker. However, I know that Libsyn, and I use Libsyn, I use both, okay? So I don't want to get you guys confused about where to move. I just want you to know that there is 2 other options that are just as affordable, okay? So if money is your issue, if you want to make sure you get distribution everywhere that's possible, then you want to go with Libsyn. That's Libsyn. And use my friend Dave Jackson's code to get 1 month for free. All right? And that code is SOP free. Because Dave Jackson runs the School of Podcasting. So that's where the SOP comes from. Okay? You taking notes? You got that down? Because if not, leave me a comment. Let me know, and I will go back over that because that's important. All right. So now let's really get to the nitty gritty on this here. Remember, I showed you in my stats, according to Anchor, which those stats on Anchor are not like any of the others. Remember, I told you they're very, very rudimentary. But according to them, there was 128 people listening on Apple Podcasts, or 128 times that the podcast was listened to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to equate that to people. So that was a bad podcaster. It could have been one person who listened to all 90 some episodes and then went back and listened to a couple of them. All right. So let's say there was 5 people. So for those 5 people that really like that podcast, they're like, wow, I love how Miss Eileen shares these Anchor tips. She is so on point. I just love listening to her anyway. Those 5 people, what you need to do is to tell them in your next episode, you need to post an episode that says, I am moving my feed from Anchor over to Spreaker. So make sure you're following me on Spreaker. Send me an email, tweet me, Facebook me, leave me a comment on YouTube, and I'll make sure that you know where to find me. You need to tell them, okay? That's your step number 1. Because guess what? What happens if you just don't hear from Anchor? Anchor just gets so super busy. There's like 150 people tried to move their podcast on one day. And Anchor has this, I don't know, 5 people or 2 people or whatever that need to put in this redirect code. But believe me, that's on the bottom of their list of to-do for the day, right? They got a bunch of stuff to do. They don't have these big teams that are dedicated to this kinds of stuff. So they get around to it when they get around to it. Okay? Nothing against them. They have a tremendous job on their hands. And they're, quite frankly, probably not thinking that a lot of people are going to leave because, hey, it's free. Okay? So you're going to tell them. But if, in fact, you don't hear from Anchor, don't cry, my friend. It's going to be okay because you're not getting that many listeners over on Apple Podcasts anyway. You're not getting that many subscribers. I felt that kind of probably like hurt you a little bit. But I'm here to tell you, you're a podcaster. I love you. You're not getting that many listens on Apple Podcasts. And if you are, I want you to prove me wrong. But guess what? You're going to tell them. They love your show that much. You're going to tell them. You're not going to wait until the day you move over. Because remember, Anchor's free. Keep that podcast there, right? And you can put on another episode and say, hey, guys, just want to let you know in case you're listening on iTunes. I just released a new episode because you're just going to put that little thing over on the Anchor feed. And your real show is going to be now on Spreaker or on Libsyn or on Podbean. Okay? I know. And I'm here to hold your hand. I'm going to run through that again because I can understand where your head might be spinning right now. You might just be confused. Okay? So, well, before I do that, let me just see if there is anyone over in the chat. Okay? Is that okay with you? Let me see. I'm on a different computer, so bear with me. Okay, yes, we do have. My personal opinion, anyone using a free service shouldn't even expect support. And that's from my friend, Andrew Hatchett. And hey, we've been down the road many times. And, you know, I got to say, even here on YouTube, YouTube has a tremendous amount of resources and of staff, okay? And they probably have dedicated teams to answer our support questions. All right? Because remember, YouTube is free, although the little difference here, why people get concerned about Anchor, is because although YouTube is free, YouTube has a monetization strategy in place. And they need us creators in order for that monetization strategy to work. All right. So it does benefit them, and they probably have a tiered system. In other words, those people that have that silver play button, that means they have over 100,000 subscribers, they're going to get top level support because those people make a lot of money for YouTube. All right. So that doesn't mean that someone like myself who has a problem with YouTube, I have to give them a big shout out and a big thank you so much when I deleted a video by mistake and I contacted them, and within less than 48 hours, I want to say it was 24 hours, but I'll say less than 48 hours, my video was restored. So they have teams in place, all right? And they've got an infrastructure. This infrastructure has been built up for years and years and years. And still sometimes there's problems on YouTube that are just, you know, the platform goes wonky sometimes. It's the internet, right? So, you know, I say all this to say that, you know, it's not Anchor's fault, all right? It's your fault. Yeah, that's right. I'm telling you because my friend Andrew Hatchett just told you too. When you use a free platform, don't even expect support. There you have it. I said it and I'm standing by it. Lucky you got people like myself, my dear friend Avi Uniglicht from Ask Avi, my dear friend Dan Davidson from Anchor Talk, Dr. Dan. Okay, we provided so much support for Anchor version 2. By the time Anchor version 3 came out, we're like, whew, okay, I'm tired now. Because we had to figure everything out in order to to supply the support for you. So I was listening this morning. I'm going to give a shout out to Aunt Capone, who was here. I'm not sure if he's still here, but also to the one and only from the Fried Oreo. And the conversation was going back and forth about the leaderboard and stats. And let me tell you, these stats and Anchor, I don't trust them for 1 minute. I don't trust none of them. Even though I just showed them to you, I don't trust none of them because they don't comply with the standards that most of the other podcasting platforms are using, the ones from the IAB. All right. Now, nobody's been certified or anything like that. We're not going to go down that road. My point is, when you're talking about listens inside of the Anchor app, you can't mix apples and oranges. You can't give me a dashboard that shows me listens and you're not showing me subscribers. Now, even with Apple, there is a Podcast Connect account, and I went into large detail about that in a prior video, okay? And I'll put a link over here somewhere to that video where I went through all the stats from the top podcasting hosts, including Apple. And I was lucky enough, I was fortunate enough that my daughter let me have access to her account. Shout out to Nikki from Better Than Success. She's got a very popular podcast. And believe me, her biggest audience comes from Apple Podcasts, which is what most podcasters who've been doing it for a while will see. Their biggest chunk of audience is coming from Apple. The Apple Podcast, aka iTunes. If you're on your desktop, it's called iTunes. If you're on your phone, which is where most people are listening to podcasts, it's called Podcast app or Apple Podcasts. All right. And this is just how it is. Don't shoot the messenger. Don't, complain that is it right or is it wrong or is it fair? It doesn't have to be fair. It's like when we were in school, we didn't think it was fair that the whole class had to be put on detention because there was one little troublemaker. It's just the way it is. So learn it. Learn the platform. Learn your craft. Not just the content piece. Also learn the tech. It's a little complicated, but it's not that complicated, especially after I break it down to you. That's what I'm here for. Okay? That's what I'm here for. I'm not going to be one of those curmudgeon people that say, oh, that darn Anchor. That's not my goal. I'm not. If you're still on Anchor, yes, I will still support you. I just put out an episode this morning over there. And I have another one in the can because I haven't been podcasting over there enough. And I feel like I'm not serving my community because I've built a community of listeners over there. And it's no one's fault that Anchor have decided to pivot. And instead of being a social audio app, now they're going for podcasting. All right. It's nobody's fault. It's not unfair. It's their app. They can do whatever they want. Guess what? We need to have our own stuff so we can do what we want. And guess what? We do have our own stuff. It's called content. And you can do what you want. And you can have possession of your content. You don't sign your rights over to an app. I've done it before. Oh my gosh, I've done it. Oh boy, it just hurts my heart to think about the pain that me and my fellow comrades went through as we experienced the nightmare that is known as Blab, who shut down in the middle of the evening. I always say shut down in the middle of the night because it sounds more dramatic, but their time it was like 5 something, For me, it was the middle of the night because I was already asleep here in Philadelphia, and they just shut down. No, we're going to shut things down next week. We're going to shut things down next month. Download your stuff. No, it's just like, most of y'all content sucked anyway, so we're just going to shut it down. So when you have your own, you get to be judge, jury, and executioner. It's the way it is. It's the way it is. It ain't my rules, baby. I'm just telling y'all. I'm just telling you because I don't want to be the one that never told you. And oh, my dear is still here. Aunt Capone is still here. Oops, I made that a little bit too big. Hang on. I couldn't see what I was doing. Sorry. Let's see if I can get that back. I don't know. I might have closed it out. I think I did. Okay, no problem. I got a little excited when I saw the ant was still there. So we'll have to see if we can pop that chat out again. Give me a second, guys. I see there's 2 of you here, and I thank you so much for being here. And, you know, that's all I need. You know, even if it's one person, that's all I need. And, oh, now there's 3. And, you know, I want you guys to understand, even folks that are watching this replay, you know, I started podcasting back in 2009. In fact, I started all of my online endeavors around the same time. Okay. I met a guy yesterday. You know, my daughter had an event, and there was a guy who came to the event because he, you know, been watching my daughter and knew that she was having this event. But then he came over to me and he said, Miss Eileen, I watch your videos. I didn't realize that Nicole was your daughter. Oh, okay. Oh, so, and I'm sorry, I did not get a chance to say Kinsley Bontere. Beautiful, beautiful name. She says, nice video, love it. And then Andrew said, just had a thought. How, if at all, will GDPR affect gathering subscriber info for podcasters? Well, the podcast hosts, just about each one of them that I know of, have already issued their, you know, statements about what they're doing to comply with GDPR. So as a podcaster, if you have a website, then you have to do whatever, I guess WordPress is going to give us a hand if you're a WordPress blogger. And if you're on Google blogger or something like that, of course, you don't have to worry about it because they got everything under control, right? And if you're using one of those other platforms to host as a house for your show, I'm not talking about a podcasting host, but as your blogging platform like Squarespace or Wix or Weebly, you guys got to talk to those people individually because I don't know. I just know about WordPress and about Blogger, and I only know a little bit about both of them. And I do know that the podcasting host, because Libsyn has already sent us their statement saying what they do to comply. Blueberry, I've heard that their statement went out as well. Spreaker has not sent an email yet, but they do have a blog post about it. So probably all the information is in the blog post. And actually, who's the other one? Podbean. I have not kept up with what they're, I mean, there's just so many GDPR notices. But as an individual podcaster, because your files are being hosted at the podcasting host, it's their job, Andrew. So fantastic question. So it's the job of the podcasting host. Now, I haven't heard anything about it from Anchor, not a word. So I don't know what they're doing. That doesn't mean they're not doing anything. Just means I haven't heard a word. Now, Aunt Capone, do you need a desktop to monetize YouTube videos? Absolutely not. Everything from YouTube can be done from your phone. However, with your mobile device, you're not going to see the stats the same from your mobile device, but you will see them. You'll just see a limited view of your different stats. Now, And I know that you have a relatively new YouTube channel. So I do think that you probably need to get up to 2 different levels. There's 2 stipulations that YouTube put out. And off the top of my head, I'll try my best to remember what they are because I've been monetized for so long. You had to have 1,000 subscribers and you had to have 4,000 hours, I believe, of watch time over a certain period. I'll say 30 days, just because that sounds right. But so you have to meet certain criteria in order for your YouTube channel to be monetizable. So what I recommend for you, Aunt, because I know that you have the GoFundMe account, I just recommend that you put that link in your description of your videos. Now, what you need to do is make sure you put the HTTP part of the link, because if you don't have that whole link there, it doesn't work. It's not clickable. So if your friends or your subscribers here on YouTube are on their phones, they won't be able to click the link, and it's going to be a nightmare for them to try and copy and paste it or whatever. But, years ago, we used to use this thing where we would put the link at the very beginning of the description, but we stopped doing that. And I don't know that it makes that much difference, but just give it a try, but don't put the link at the very beginning. I would just say, whatever it is you want to say about your video. And there's a lot that I can teach you about getting your videos found, because that's really important. And one of the key things that you do need to have is great titles. Great titles. Titles that people are searching for. So once you've defined who your target is, so monetizing on YouTube is a whole nother video. But just to answer your question real quickly, you can make your thumbnails on mobile devices, but your titles need to be on point, and as well as your content and all that. So you got to make sure that people are searching for whatever it is you're talking about. And you can do that research on your phone just by typing in YouTube, like right before you make your video. Now, this is something I don't always do. Like, I know that today I wanted to talk about this topic of moving to a new podcast, and I'm just going to assume that there's enough people searching for that topic. You know why? Because I'm seeing the question all the time. So if I'm seeing it, imagine how many people want to move to a different podcast host, and it doesn't have to be Anchor. I'm just speaking about Anchor. But let's just say they want to move from Libsyn to Blueberry. They still have to go through this same mindset of knowing that the RSS feed is what's important, making sure that the old host and the new host put things in place, whereas the old host has to put that redirect to redirect people over to the new host. So that's the same, no matter what platforms you're moving from. But it's just that I wanted to give a public service announcement that it may be delayed with Anchor, but that's okay, because guess what? You might not have any subscribers on any of those other platforms anyway. So don't let that stop you. Like, I sent Anchor an email and they didn't get back to me yet. Don't worry about it, boo. Okay? I'm not talking to Anchor phone. I'm saying to these people that I hear asking this question. And I'm looking at my stats, and I know I have a popular show. All right? My show is popular. It's more popular with inside the app. If I ever knew where the other category was, I would know where else is popular. But not on Apple iTunes, because there was 128 listens. Okay, so you pull your hair out like, oh my gosh, I need to have that redirect. No, you don't really need to worry about that, because there's nobody listening over there. You get me? Do you follow what I'm saying, guys? It's more of a mindset thing, okay, than an actual concern. Okay, you're welcome. Pardon the caps locks. You're bad. Oh, okay, no problem, Andrew. You're a moderator, so nobody can put you out. Okay, here, Andrew gave us the criteria: 4,000 watched hours in the last 365 days. Okay, in the last year, and 1,000 subscribers. Okay, so May 20th, 2018, second test just doesn't cut it. Oh yeah. Andrew is probably referring to one of his titles on his YouTube videos. Yeah, Andrew, we got to get those titles together. And I know that you would get more traffic, and it's probably something that you don't focus on that much, Andrew. But yeah, just go ahead, try it. Go try to go for a title that somebody's actually searching for, you know, because I know a lot of times you're doing tests, and if you're doing an OBS test or if you're doing a Zoom test, you will have that in the title. But what you could do is expand on that, and you could say Zoom screen sharing test worked. Okay, because I bet people are trying to figure out Zoom screen sharing or Zoom live streaming to YouTube. Oh boy, I bet you that's a little gold mine right there. I don't even know for sure because I don't use Zoom, but I know Andrew does, and I know Andrew uses a lot of, you know, does a lot of testing, has a lot of videos there talking about OBS, talking about Zoom. Just add those couple little extra words. And I know I have another friend who, his name is Guy R. Cook. Let me give him a shout out too, the Guy R. Cook Report. And for years, I told him he would do the same thing. He would put the date at the beginning of his titles on YouTube. And I said, Guy, don't do that because nobody's really searching for 05, 01, 18. Nobody searches for that. No, I just do. He would say, no, I just do that to keep myself organized. And I'm like, well, all right, okay. And hey, everybody got to do what they got to do. So that makes him feel happy. That's fine. He heard somebody else say not to do it, and he changed it. I was like, that's okay. As long as somewhere in the back of his mind, he was probably thinking, Eileen told me that already. And if he wasn't thinking in the back of his mind, you better know next time I talked to him, I said, yeah, I told you that 2 years ago. Because he's my friend. I mean, I wouldn't do that to somebody who's not my friend. And you, who's watching this replay right now, you are my friend as well. And you will probably say, well, you told me to use Anchor. Yes, but you didn't watch that whole video. Because in that video, I told you every Anchor video that I've put out, I have told folks that Anchor is a stepping stone. You want to take your content beyond Anchor. And it's funny, the other day, my friend Larry Snow was saying to me, I don't get it. What's so bad about the Anchor terms of service? Well, I'm not one of those people that reads terms of service. I'm just not. And it wasn't until Todd Cochran over on the New Media Show, he works with Blueberry, that's another podcasting host, and he started reading out the terms of service about how Anchor, when you click that OK, Anchor owns your content. They can do whatever they want with your content. And even if you leave their platform, remember, they still got all your content on their servers. Even if you shut down your account, they still own your content that you've made on that app or uploaded to that website. You've already signed off on that. See, I knew going in, and somebody, in fact, it was Todd who laughed at me. He said, "That's ridiculous. It's still your content." Yeah, but it's okay. I did it for the people so that people would not be pulling their hair out. Oh my God, how do I find this on Anchor? How do I do that? And they would listen to my tutorials and they'd be like, "Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much." And, it's kind of what I do. Anchor's no exception to that rule. I mean, I've been doing this on platforms that have really weak support articles or do a really poor job of talking about the innovations that they're making. I mean, they're so busy building and making and improving, they don't have time to stop and think, we need to tell people how to use this. Yeah, there's that too. And they don't get that people are frustrated on how to use the platform, or their attention is on the big influencers. And, I'll say it again. Casey Neistat, he went over there and he's #1 on Anchor, him and his wife, Candace, and nothing against them. But hey, they don't use Anchor. They're #1 on Anchor, but they have a studio with lights and microphones. They are not picking up this phone and making segments on Anchor. And what I've wanted to say to my dear friend Todd Cochran, you don't know if he's agreed to those terms of service or not, because he's not using the app. Okay. And that's where you click through and agree. And for some reason, I just don't see Casey being the guy who's sitting there uploading those files on his PC after he finished and again to finish making an episode. I could be wrong. I could be dead wrong. But for some reason, I don't think I am. Okay. All right, guys. Yeah. So I want to make sure that you guys know that you don't have to put up with not having good support. Libsyn has fantastic support. Spreaker has fantastic support. Podbean, Blueberry, those 4 companies I know have fantastic support teams. I mean, I have talked to these folks. Okay, Mike Dell is working over at Blueberry, and Crystal at Libsyn, as well as Dave Jackson over at Libsyn. And I can't recall the person's name over at Podbean. Forgive me, but I do know that I talked to a support person over there and they took care of me lickety split. I have not heard back from Anchor in over whenever 3.0 came out. All I want to know is what is in other, those stats that I've never seen on any other platform that say other. Now I'm going to show you one more time, the big lion's share of my stats that are under other. Wait, I can't get back to, here. That, oh yeah, I need to be on that screen. So I'm getting confused about if I want to scroll down, I need to be over there, right? Those stats that are 1,628 of other. Why would you, who does that? Nobody does that in their stats. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to log into my Libsyn stats. Now, guys, don't laugh at me because I haven't put out an episode on Libsyn in a while, even though I do have one in the can. I'm going to put one out. But actually, it's not that bad over there. I do have some downloads. I have stats because I want you guys to see what real stats look like, because that's lame. Those little stats over there are lame. Okay, hang on. Let's get to a part where, okay, let me show that. All right, let me come back to the original. I need to pop this out into another tab so you guys can see it. All right, I think I got that together now. Go here, close this one out. In fact, I'm going to actually close down that window. And then, you know, you guys know I'm on another computer here. So let's do Libsyn. And here I can see Mozilla. So that's Firefox, right? Then Chrome. Then Microsoft IE, that was Internet Explorer, and iTunes, and Apple Core Media. Now, because I have been sharing my podcast instead of actually making new episodes, that's why you're seeing more from people that are on desktops. All right. But it should be people who are on iTunes. But let's see if we can go back to a different month. Probably not. That's okay. Just the point that I was trying to make to you guys is, see how there's no other? There's some funky names that you may need a little bit more explanation about, but they're like, here's one that's a null 11. I don't know. Who knows what that is? It's something that they couldn't track. But there's no huge category that's other. Let's change the date up here so we can get a different date range in here. So I think I would do that right here. Click to change views. No, not the table view. Oh, here is where I change the date. I think I can go back that far. All right, now let's scroll back down. And yeah, you get to see, you know, my views. I mean, a lot of my downloads. I'm saying views because you know I'm on YouTube, but you know I don't mean that. I mean downloads. My downloads here are higher on the browser because I get my content shared a lot from the browser. But for me, I know that I would need to skip past that and look at the Apple Core Media. See, I understand that because this is where people are subscribers, all right, in Apple Core Media and iTunes. The browser ones are good to have from me, from my show, okay, because I do want people coming back to my website. But the optimal for most people is that you want people to subscribe to your show on their phones. That's what you really want. Okay. And so hopefully this has been helpful for you. Like I said, I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I see the frustrations out there. And I want to let you know, when you're at the point where you're getting feedback, especially if you're inside that Anchor app, you're getting people that are asking you questions, that are giving you feedback, engaging in real conversations, not just so much, oh, thanks for stopping by my station, thanks for listening to my content. No, they're actually talking about your content and giving you literal feedback or asking questions or responding to your questions. All right. And promote it on other platforms. Promote it on Instagram stories is a fantastic way to promote your podcast. Facebook, do some of these live streams like I do. I like to promote even here on YouTube. All right. I still like to promote and cross promote my content. And also just for people to be aware that I do have a podcast and that they can find it on iTunes. All right. So get out there and get your podcast seen. But you also don't want to put all your blood, sweat, and tears into that show that actually belongs to someone else. You hear me? I know you heard me. You might not like it, but like I said, don't shoot the messenger. I'm here to help you because I don't have a nickel in this dime. I really don't. I mean, I have an anchor course. And somebody might have been thinking about buying my anchor course and saying, oh, forget that. I'm not buying her anchor course. I'm going to go over now and get Pat Flynn's course. As a matter of fact, I recommend you do that when you're ready. Or you sign up for the School of Podcasting with Dave Jackson, because he can be your personal podcast coach. And I have a link for that. It's ILEANE.link/SOP for School of Podcasting. Now, in case you're listening to that in a replay, I'm going to spell it because you may not remember how to spell my name. It's ILEANE.link/SOP. All right, so let's see if we got any more comments. And it looks like you guys have asked all your questions. And I do so appreciate you for being here. Those of you who are in the live stream, those of you who have watched the replay, please reach out to me if you have questions. You can always leave me an email at ILEANE.link/contact. Voicemails, ILEANE.link/voicemail. And with that, you have a blessed and wonderful day and happy podcasting. Peace.